All right, good morning and welcome back here to Trader Minute. Great to have you aboard. Probably be a light group here on chat here today and for the rest of the week around this holiday season. Hope you're having a great holiday and that you're being safe and enjoying the time and whatnot there. Lots of stuff going on here. In a few individual names. Not a whole lot of stuff going on in the broader markets. Today is probably going to be a very light volume day. Historically is. Tomorrow will likely be relatively light. When the Christmas holiday lies on a weekend, you can see a little bit more expanded trading activity around the holiday. With the holiday smack dab in the middle of the week, a lot of fund managers and stuff. They basically go home. A lot of analysts, the chatter becomes real quiet. They kind of look at the beginning of the week. Well, there's not a whole lot. The end of the week, well, not a whole lot. And it kind of becomes a very dead week in regards to news and catalyst. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean it's a dead week from a trading standpoint, as stocks can still continue to go one way or the other. Anything with a little bit of a news on it can go up big or down big. But it's hard to look at this week and say, well, it's creating signals, let's go react to them. Or a stock is bearish, now it's turning bullish, so let's go buy it. Or a stock is bullish, now turning bearish, let's go sell it. Generally, we want to be buying those stocks that have been bullish and selling those stocks that have been bearish in general. Okay. Look, market futures, we pull them up here. You can see market futures, they're up about 3.5 points. Fair value is about one and three quarters points to the bullish. So all in all, we're looking at about a 5 point open to the upside on the S&P. Okay, are we going to get a whole lot of movement here today? I don't suspect. I suspect today to be very similar to what we saw on Tuesday, and this is kind of the price action here Tuesday. Not very much. You see the expanded volumes down here below. It kind of just shows what happened Tuesday. The the market kind of went up the entire day, but volumes very light, no real volatility in the broader market. Okay, so let's get to some of the individual stories. Let's start with our trades, okay, and let's start with Boeing. Now, Boeing is trading up about 30, 40 cents pre-market, okay? Nothing greatly significant. Look at the volumes here on Boeing this week so far. I mean, there's just nothing there. Monday reversed a little. Tuesday went up a little. Nothing significant. Boeing here, as Mike you've mentioned, has a vote coming up here on January 3rd. And that could be a significant event for Boeing. Okay, I mentioned this morning that I really don't want to be in the trade around that. Okay, we still have a little bit of time till that event happens, but ideal scenario would be about a 7, 8 point move ahead of that vote. Now, a lot of times you can get moves on stocks ahead of some sort of event, okay, ahead of earnings, ahead of something, as news starts to leak of which way that event's going to go. I mentioned ideal would be a $7, $8 breakout. From a technical standpoint, Boeing's been consolidating in about a $7, $8 range here. Okay, so a breakout would likely be in that type of magnitude. Can it happen by the third? Oh, that would be stretching it. Okay, that would be stretching it. I mean, that would be ideal, but it's something that, from a technical standpoint, is still absolutely there. Okay, Chesapeake CHK, which we're in here for the Vibe and Trend Rider. You'll notice still holding the upper band. Yeah, reversed down a little Monday, went up a little Tuesday. Neither of those actions that significant. As you notice, the volume, the bullish trend does remain intact here for Chesapeake. Now, we did enter a new trade here on Tuesday, and that was on Nucor. And Nucor's one we've been watching for a while. We've talked about several times, and some of the different things going on with Nucor and in the steel industry in general. Okay, within steel, and Nucor broke and pierced the upper Bollinger Band on Tuesday. Okay. Now the question is that significant? I mean, you'll notice it's not going to be a lot of volume. Okay, it's not going to be a ton of volume overall given the week, but pure price action very bullish. Now we went after Nucor not necessarily because of the trigger on Tuesday, but more for the overall action that sent it above 53, where we've had this bullish action building, especially off of the reversal from the week prior, and kind of giving that overall bullishness with the vibe and the trend rider. So we said, all right, this is something that's already bullish. Yeah, it's getting an even better trigger today, but we're not necessarily buying it for today's trigger. We're buying it for the overall bullishness that's out there. So, new trade, and we love the setup. It is a higher risk option that we got into, meaning if the stock were to reverse and just go down from here, it would be a little bit bigger loss than what we would typically like. But the upside, the reward potential on this is also elevated to much more than what we typically have, and so that's kind of the Nucor setup here. Now, those are positions. All of them are kind of looking as if they're going to gap up just slightly here this morning. Chesapeake no more. Nucor slight gap up here this morning. Is that significant? It's, I guess, good for the positions, but I wouldn't call anything this morning overly significant. Okay. There are a couple pieces of news that are out there today. One of the things here, Twitter, it was up about 8% on Tuesday. It's trading up about another $2.50 here this morning. It was interesting on Tuesday. One of the analysts came out and started to essentially rip Twitter and say this has become a cult move, a cult stock, and reiterated their sell with a $30 price target. And you don't have a lot of analysts over the last couple of days jumping in and defending Twitter. So very interesting to kind of see this move. There is a lot of heated debate about whether Twitter's really worth 80, whether it's worth 120, whether it's worth 30. And it's not something that for me is worth anything more than kind of a day trade or an all or nothing type trade. It could go to 80, it could go to 120, it could go to 200, it could fall down to 30, and there's just not a lot of major support and resistance areas to really play off of. Now, Tesla's a little bit of a different story, and Tesla had a nice move on Thursday or Tuesday, and we talked about Tesla, having a catalyst to kind of push it higher here as the market bell rings, and Tesla's continuing higher here this morning as a lot of talk, especially out of the company, about expanding into the major cities of China, which long term would be very fantastic for Tesla. So getting a nice little boost here this morning. All right, market bell rung here. We see market futures. Market's opening up about 50 points higher here. Boeing not really open yet, up about 60 cents. Chesapeake down about 4 or 5 cents. Nucor up about 12 cents. But none of them are really open per se that I would make too much of that. I'll go take a look at Twitter, UPS and FedEx and Amazon, as most of the news this morning really revolves around those stocks and kind of what's happening there. And I want to make a few comments about that. I do apologize. I'm not seeing the chats here, so I will I will go and take a look here. Yeah, SPM, is the IAM vote supposed to be a positive for us with Boeing? It could be. It may not be. It's not something that as a trader, I want to say, well, I know the absolute ins and outs of how it all is going to work and how it's going to play out and how the buyers and sellers are going to come in. Okay. When you look at a chart, okay, when you look at a chart, you never see the news, right? You don't see the upgrades, downgrades. You don't see the employment data. You don't generally see the earnings. Occasionally you do from the expanded volumes or gaps, but generally you don't see most of the news within the chart. Okay, and so there are many technicians that'll simply say, who cares about any of the news? The chart is telling us what the stock wants to do, so we kind of stick with that. I don't really want to be in it around the vote, okay, but at the same time, I'm not hesitant to hold some through the vote and kind of ride it with different price levels. I don't think the vote is going to create a $5, $6, $7 move in the stock. Okay, but anything can happen around those types of things. Okay? All right, so Boeing up about 80 cents here this morning. Chesapeake here about flat, and Nucor up about 18 cents, kind of just continuing on their moves. A lot of the chatter out there surrounds FedEx, UPS, and Amazon and shipping. FedEx was upgraded today, and a price target of 173 placed on it. Okay, 173 placed on it. UPS has what on the surface looks like some pretty negative news, but I really kind of look at it more as a positive than a negative. UPS missed some of their deliveries, so did FedEx. UPS, more in association with Amazon, is they missed some of their holiday deliveries. There were just too many. Okay, you can look at that as a negative and say, well, they missed some deliveries. It's going to make customers upset. You can also look at that as a positive and say, well, you know what? They had more deliveries than ever before. The growth in the online shopping and the delivery is raging. It's strong, and this is a very bullish thing overall. You can kind of make both arguments in a little bit of a way. I tend to think, based on the trends of the stocks, based on what's going on, that this tends to be more bullish for UPS, Amazon, FedEx than bearish. Okay, and I do believe that there's enough growth in these stocks to continue to push them higher. FedEx, obviously, my favorite. UPS will be number two. Amazon number three in a way to play it, but is today the ideal entry point for something like UPS? Not necessarily. I mean, UPS can go up 50 cents, down a buck. With the light volume here today, anything can happen. But as we looked at on Tuesday, something like UPS, this 103 level here was the breakout level. Anything that kind of dips down to 103 and a half, 103, down to that support becomes a really interesting and a really strong buy. You can almost look at Amazon in a similar way. Amazon had been building this consolidation through December, has pushed up, pulled back a little bit. If Amazon pulls back into the 395, 390 area, becomes the place to start looking and saying, hey, do we potentially have a buy here? Okay. So that's kind of really what's some of the news that's out there in the market, some of the things that are moving. Most everything else really doesn't have a catalyst. There is some chatter, some increased chatter in regards to some of the lawsuits between Apple, Microsoft, Google, as basically some of the patents battles are continuing to rage, but they're not really affecting the overall stock price. You do have T-Mobile, TMUS, where Sprint has been. It's been projected that Sprint is going to put a buy bid here on T-Mobile. You now have another suitor starting to step in here for T-Mobile, continuing to push it higher. But in general, just not a whole lot. Things like the KRE continuing higher. We saw Triple D, which kind of pulled back a little on Tuesday. Now kind of recovering all of those Tuesday losses and pushing higher. You have things like Herbalife continuing, Halliburton continuing, but just very lightly and not with a ton of momentum. Okay. Yeah, Armand, UPS had to rent extra planes, still not enough for the volume. Yeah, my wife laughed. The UPS guy that comes to our neighborhood, yeah, typically has a normal sized truck, and on Tuesday, he had a U-Haul attached to his truck, to his UPS truck, to carry all the various packages there. Okay. Um, Lulu, yeah, interesting one. Lulu here has kind of been ravaged here, or really taken down hard. Getting a nice little move higher here, a little sympathy bounce, low volume. How far can it go? Now, and on something like this, it can go $2, $4, $6. It's just a matter of, okay, generally once it starts to pull back again, it tends to be pretty tough. Something, looking for some sort of upside here in Lulu, even buying Lulu here with a 62.5, 63 area is a very interesting and a very nice setup. Okay. Bank of America. Okay. Bank of America continuing to go flat. And I'd like to see Bank of America continue to do that. We talked about how on Tuesday this is generally very bullish, okay? Generally very bullish. And not only Bank of America was doing that, but outside of Bank of America, Costco. Now, Costco today potentially has a catalyst to move it higher. Costco was cited as having some of the strongest online sales over the last week, and at Costco.com. And so that's a kind of a positive catalyst here overall for Costco through its consolidation to potentially get it back into the 122, 123 area on that rebound and on that bounce. Okay. So very, very nice action. I would like to see Bank of America before getting in, have a better catalyst or a sign that it's ready to start moving. Okay. Apple. Okay, nothing really going on here today with Apple. Nothing on Tuesday with Apple. I did mention some of the lawsuits going back and forth, but that will be tied up in court for a long time. It's not a new story. It's just a continuation of some of the old. Apple probably will continue to go higher. Can it give a little bit of a pullback back to the 560, 555 area before it does move higher? Yeah, it can. Ideally, I'd like to see that before jumping in there on Apple. Okay. Micron. Micron article came out here today about how the short sellers are leaving Micron. Short sellers had been betting heavily on Micron this year to go down. And Micron has done the complete opposite. In fact, Micron has doubled since August. Okay, Micron has blown the shorts out of the water, and to see that, hey, the short sellers, the short interest is going down, is natural. In fact, one of the reasons why Micron made such a strong move is the short sellers were forced out. They were having to buy back in to cover their short positions, and that put a lot of upside pressure here on the stock. Okay. Gold miners. Was asked about gold miners, and the miners had a really nice day on Tuesday, especially relative to gold itself. Gold did perform incredibly well, but the gold miners, silver miners had some nice moves on those. I'm still not a huge fan of the gold miners here. I would like to see them set some higher lows. For now, they've just continued to set lower lows and lower highs. I'd like to see it make some sort of move and set a lower or a higher low that says, hey, we're going into some sort of uptrend, or to see some bottoming action here on gold. Right now, this action on gold just looks like a sympathy bounce off of the July lows. And a lot of times these sympathy bounces, they get sold into pretty hard. We're not seeing any major changes in bonds or in the trajectory of the US dollar that would suggest gold is ready for a major turn. And so I'm not, can you get some more upside on gold miners higher? Yeah, you probably can. To see AUY go up into the 9.5 area, you may see that, but it's tough. I'm not really interested in playing that as we don't see a major shift overall in the trajectory of where gold can go here. Okay. Yeah, AK, Home Depot, Bed Bath and Beyond here. Home Depot talked a little bit about it on Tuesday. Very nice bullish signal overall here. Um, Bed Bath and Beyond, which kind of broke out on Tuesday, sold off into the close, getting a nice lift again here this morning, both in very, very strong positions. In fact, when we did Nucor, we looked at both Bed Bath and Beyond and Home Depot. We chose to go with Nucor, but very similar types of charts there. Yeah, Baidu here in these Chinese internet stocks. Baidu fell Tuesday, selling a little bit. Again, lighter volumes, time of year type of stuff. When you look at like Kihu here, which broke 80 earlier this week on Monday, Sohu, you're not seeing a mass breakdown within this whole group. In fact, Baidu's the only one with the minor breakdown. What does that tell me? That tells me that, hey, if Baidu is able to get some sort of, bullish engulfing candle or some sort of pullback, maybe even down to 162, 163, and then a bounce, that would be a very nice place to be a buyer here. Okay. IBM. A couple of viewers are in IBM. IBM continues to move higher. Yes, it is light volumes. No, there is no sign to sell it yet. Could there be? Sure, but right now it continues to look as if IBM is being bought in anticipation of a rotation into some of the dogs of the Dow from 2013. I'll talk about that concept, dogs of the Dow, a little bit more today and tomorrow. I'll bring up some data here for you and show you what that rotation generally looks like and what some of the trade setups may be for that. Okay. All right, so Boeing here, we're looking at Boeing up about 75 cents, nothing significant. Nucor up about 17 cents, nothing significant in regards to reacting to. Chesapeake down about a quarter, really nothing significant to react to here on Chesapeake. If we pull it up from an hourly standpoint, we're just getting this consolidation between 27.20, 27.60. I would be very concerned if Chesapeake starts to break down below 27. Okay, that's kind of where we would say, all right, enough's enough. Let's go. We saw morning weakness on Chesapeake on Tuesday. We saw morning weakness on Chesapeake, not last week, but the week prior. It hasn't been entirely uncommon. Again, no real volumes, nothing really to react to. But we start to break 27, that would be enough's enough, and look to move on out there of Chesapeake. Okay. All right. Well, thanks for hopping on. I will be back on here at 10 o'clock Mountain, 12 o'clock Eastern. We'll start off our 5-part technical analysis session here, where We'll start here today with some of the very basics and the basic building blocks of technical analysis, some of the assumptions and some of the theories behind that, and we'll start to build that as the next week goes by, and look at some of the tricks and some of the real significant things when it comes to technical analysis. Again, all those will be recorded, so for those of you who are out for the holidays, enjoying the family and whatnot, no worries. They will be there in the video library for you to replay. Have a great one, and we will talk to you later. Take care.